So we talked about secondary trauma, and now we're going to dig into building resilience to kind of combat that secondary trauma that can be really powerful to ourselves. And so, you know, we want to revisit some of the definitions again, like we did in the introductory training. So just to recap, um, actually, can I have a volunteer help me read a couple of these? You don't hear from me. Anyone want to help read through? What is resilience?
Sure, I
I
can
can
read.
help.
You got to stay.
Oh, please go ahead.
Okay.
All right, I got it. What is resilience, aka mental health and wellness superpowers? The ability, capacities, and relationships to manage and overcome adversity. Resilience is not binary. It can be built, particularly through recovering from trauma. By understanding toxic stress, trauma, and the brain science, we can heal and transform stress and trauma into resilience to fuel healing and success.
Awesome. Thank you for reading that. And so we also want to flag when we're talking about this resilience, and that's why we said too, we want to think about resilience at multiple levels. Like we don't want to just be putting the onus on the individual. We want to think about, kind of the systems and, cultures and organizational things so that we're kind of doing a collective responsibility across the board. So as we go through kind of different ways to build our resilience, we're going to think about, definitely ourselves, our interpersonal, but also some things that we can do as peers, as leaders, as managers, colleagues, um, to help support that. And another way, I forgot I should just put this on here too, but the CSW put together our resilience rainbow to really visualize that we need to think about this at the multiple levels. And like I was saying before, that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow or in the middle is safety, that feeling, physically, emotionally, psychologically safe, where people are feeling legitimized and supported and seen and heard. That's our goal. And to get there, we need to operate and think through both the personal levels, thinking through what we can do for ourselves. Organizationally, let's think about how we can take care of each other and put things in place. And then we also need to be thinking in the broader community too of what's going on, because that impacts us as well. Living wages, affordable health care, safe neighborhoods, so like when we think back to that trauma cartoon from the first training, there's all these different things that we're carrying and that can impact us. So secondary trauma is one of the things that we're focusing on today, but kind of layers on and multiple other things as well. And so just to think through, we talk about self-care and that's, person and it's become a buzzword, but, we like to kind of go through a few things. There's a lot of myths, myself included. Like I have to talk to myself and think, I'm like, oh, self-care is an indulgence. That is so not true. That's a myth. It's selfish. It's a one-time thing. It's too time consuming. I don't have time, right? False, false, false. So I know for me, this is a good reminder to see and something I need to do look at. It's not selfish because if you give everything you can, you have nothing left for yourself and for others. It's not a one-time experience. You need to do this ongoing in multiple ways, and we'll talk about that too. And you all kind of mentioned going to, breathing exercises, going to the gym, working out. We're going to talk even more about the variety of ways that we can, practice our own self-care. And some things are more time consuming, but self-care can be like taking 2 minutes to do really concentrated, like, breathing, box breathing, different breathing, 60 minutes, 60 seconds, just taking the time so it doesn't need to take too much time and it can actually be a better investment for you. So I've learned I need to pause more frequently throughout the day because it helps me collect my thoughts and I'm actually more productive than if I just try to like, have we all done this? Like go right through, like just keep rolling and keep it going. So just wanted to flag a few of the myths and just to refresh that, again, open and we have a hand raised, Vickie.
I was just going to add, Trish, that one of the ways that I think about self-care to get past these myths is that it's just basically brain maintenance. right?
Mm.
There's a lot of things that we have to maintain in our lives. You have to maintain your car, you have to maintain your bike, you have to maintain any appliances that you own. You have to clean your house or your apartment. And self-care is just maintenance for our brains. And so it's something that we need to keep up with, something that we need to build in regularly. And when we do that, our brains will operate much more smoothly. So that's the way I kind of justify it to myself, is that it's not, an indulgence. A massage isn't an indulgence. It is what I need to keep my brain maintained in order for me to be able to do my job for the next 20 years or however long it is. So that helps me to prioritize it when we know the physiological needs for maintaining our brains, aka self-care. Those are hard decisions that we need to make. Having a growth mindset is really looking at, how do we look on what we can learn from things, including what we can learn from challenges and setbacks. I worked for 5 weeks on a huge funding proposal, spent a lot of time on it that I could have been spending on something else, and we didn't get it. Well, that could be like, oh my gosh, we're losers, they don't love us. I should just quit doing this now. This work isn't worth doing. Or having a growth mindset is more like, okay, what can I learn from that experience? We got some really great verbiage out of that. We got a great video out of that. We can repurpose it for this. So really looking at how we can grow from our experiences versus how they're just, setbacks and, permanent problems for us. And I love the rewiring of our brain. This is, somebody was mentioning, Stacy again, mentioning the hobbies. If we can learn a new language or have a new hobby or learn about something new, that's actually helping our brains create new neural connections, which then can help us in our job. So it's really important for us to keep learning and keep exploring and keep being curious in order to physically keep our brains healthy and those neurons alive and firing. Just a few other little things that aren't on this slide, but that I find really helpful. Uh, Limit judgment. So stop judging people, because and stop judging yourself unless it's like a really huge like social justice issue like racism or sexism or any of the other isms, because judgment takes a lot of energy and it can often be very negative. So limit judgment to really the important things. Don't take things personally. That's another thing I think we tend to do, is we personalize a lot of things, including things that aren't necessarily directed at us personally. Let things go. We all make mistakes. Forgive ourselves, give ourselves grace, and move on. And this was a good one. It has a little bit of a backside story though. Know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run. So know what, that's an old Kenny Rogers song. I know Pam knows what I'm talking about. But really knowing what's important. It goes back to that prioritizing things and then knowing what to let go and just know when to get out of there when things are too bad. So just a few things that might help with personal resilience. Um, Meditation, the reason we do meditation and breathing is because it's a physical hack into our brain. So we talked about the brain science and how trauma triggering is when the amygdala is firing because it feels like there's an emergency situation, cuts off the thinking part of our brain. So meditation and breathing actually physically calm down that amygdala. So that's why it's so important to get good at meditation and breathing. So that way, when your amygdala is firing off, and it's not necessarily an emergency situation, it's a trauma retriggering or a secondary trauma situation, we can calm that amygdala down and get to a place where we can be productive and do what we need to do. And it just takes practice. If you can't suddenly start meditating and expect it to work. That's why people say try to meditate regularly, try to do that breathing regularly, so that way you're good at it when you need it. Mindfulness is a very simple, similar thing. It's basically helping your brain realize that you're in the here and now. You're not being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. You're not having an emergency situation. you're here and you're now and you're grounded. And so that's another kind of biophysical way of helping to calm our bodies down, and why that works that way. And mindfulness can be, just look around and find 5 things that you can touch, 4 things that you can, I can't remember how it goes, but taste, feel, smell, but just basically, getting in touch with your physical environment and realizing that you're not in a dangerous situation. So that's how mindfulness works. So that was real quick. I know I've only got 10 minutes left, so I think we have a little bit of time for any questions that people might have. And I know we say questions and stretch, so maybe this would be a good time while people are asking questions just to either stretch in your chair a little bit or get up and walk around for a minute. I mean, this is also very much self-care and wellness. Our minds and our bodies are very connected, so it's very important to make sure we're exercising our bodies in order to give our brains a break and get that blood flowing. Any questions, thoughts, reflections?
I have a quick question, Vickie, just on something you just said. I don't know if this is something you have in your toolbox you can send us, but you just quickly said, mindfulness can be a quick exercise. Find 5 things you can touch right now, and you went on, but it was a very high level. Do you have a specific exercise around that?
Yeah, I've got a whole book on it, so
Yeah.
I'll send that to you.
Thank you. It sounds just something
Absolutely.
very simple that we can do with our staff.
Yeah. And I'm sorry I didn't have all the details. I don't use mindfulness as much, but
this one
that
sounds
book's around here somewhere.
Yeah, the mindfulness is also, it's also kind of like grounding techniques. It's trying to, if you're having a moment, like, what do you see? What do you feel? Like, go through your senses to help kind of, like Vickie says, like kind of interact or hijack what's going on in your brain if there's things. And with mindfulness too, I just wanted to put in there too that there's, different ways. I read this whole article about, mindfulness can be meditation, it can be walking, it can be dancing, it can be cooking. It's like whatever you're doing, trying to be fully present and aware. And I always like to throw in there too, because personally, a lot of these work for me, but I also need a lot of other things too. Like I've done boxing classes, I've done rage rooms where I get to smash things, like think outside the box. Like I love taking classes, but like think of these things as, you may need something at different times, and I hate the tool in the toolbox thing, but it is, you need a wide variety of tools in your toolbox depending on what's going on and what mood you're in. So different things work for different people. And even for me, different things work at different times, depending on what I'm feeling and what the situation is. So want to make sure you don't put a limit on it. That's the big message.
Regina, you are freaking awesome. Thank you for putting that link in the chat. Love you. Oh, another mindfulness thing that I actually do is photography. That is super mindful because you're constantly looking at what's in front of you, what would make a good composition, what would be an interesting photograph. So it's extremely mindful. You're not thinking about anything else. Gardening is very mindful, a mindfulness activity. Bicycling is as well, because if you're not paying attention, you could get run over. So keeps you focused on what you're doing in the here and now.
I love it. Robin, you can come do my dishes by hand if you'd like. I feel like I have so many right now.
Yeah.
You do my ironing? I'll bring my ironing, I'll do my dishes.
Oh, I can steam it. I like to steam things. I don't iron. So I have a steamer. I'll steam and you wash my dishes. Deal. See, look at this collective care.
One of the things that I was typing out, and I just deleted it because it was too much, but I actually read this and I tried it and it worked. So I have a dog, so I take my dog on walks, and they're not always long walks, they're just walks around the block so she can do her business. And sometimes you can feel like you're such in a rush, gotta get it done, gotta get it done. And they said, take a breath and just enjoy the walk with the dog, even if it's around the corner. And what that means is, for those of you who might have dogs, the dogs want to stop and smell everything. And it's their way of sort of energizing themselves, right? And they say, just embrace that. And so now I walk my dog around the block and she stops, I stop, I look around, what's in this yard? Oh, there's a leaf stuck in the fence. And just that walk around the block, that's 10 minutes, is really calming because it
Mhm.
puts you in the present. And in the article was really, I don't have it. I wish I could send it, but I remember it was put yourself in the mind of your dog and why you're doing the walk. It's if you think about as being the walk is for the dog, it will ultimately also be for you.
Mhm.
Love that.
Nice.
So true.
Excellent.
That's a great example. All right. And I want to just move us along because I just want to, we have a little bit of homework before in a couple weeks, we're going to come back on the 30th and do an action lab around secondary trauma and building resilience. And we know you've shared some things, but we'd like to have you pick a new tool to practice or strategy, ones that we've shared, other ones, doesn't matter. Just try practicing it out. And then we're going to have time at the beginning of the action lab to share some more on what people did and the pros and cons, how it felt. So we want to really be helping you to expand your kind of strategies in your toolbox. There it is again, because the big message is, you need to fit on your own oxygen mask first before you can help others. And that's a necessity, not an indulgence or a nice to have. And I'm going to send these slides tonight or tomorrow morning because I kind of, in the next few slides, we're not going to go through them, but they kind of highlight some of the tools that we flagged and some others if you wanted to go through and try some of these, like a self-care plan, the wheel. If you've heard of, so a lot of people have read about trauma through trauma stewardship and the 5 directions, the compass model. So it's like an alternative. So I'm not going to go through these, but I'm going to send these to you as references if you want to kind of try it out for yourself. I like things like this, like that have those acronyms that are kind of like CBT tools, cognitive behavioral therapy. So I like kind of having these things that I can put up and remind myself, RAIN, like in self-compassion is something I need to practice. So this is one that I use. As well as a variety of, there's so many things out there and it's just finding the right thing for you. So hopefully we've given you some that you'd like to use. We want you to share and we'll kind of collect them and so that we have a repository. And we were listing resources here and things, and we should put, Vickie, I love we get to put your blog on here. Those 4 questions are super helpful. And also the quadrants, the thing that you shared, William. So I need to remember to add to these. But I know folks need to go if they have to. We've got 2 minutes left. And if you have time, I would love for you to stay. We can do a little mental reset. If you have to go, please do what you need to do, but please try to even take 60 seconds or do some mindful walking, breathing, something to help kind of transition. I know we have a little bit of work left or heading right back into our personal lives. Either way, we need some resetting. But want to thank you for your time today. And yes, thank you for this community. It's also really enriching and supportive for us to be here with you all. So, and we're learning so much from you. So thank you, thank you. We'll follow up with an email in the recording and the slides. But if you have time, we're going to do a reset. So feel free to stay or take your off video if you want to stay with us, but don't want to do the video. So I'll start this for us who can join us, and for everyone else, have a great night. And yes, here we go. Thank you.
Just breathe. Breathe in and out. Recognize all of the thoughts swirling around in your mind. The worries, stresses, fears, anxieties. And then start with breathing. And step outside of yourself for just a moment. Push the mental reset button. See yourself here in this space, Recognize your body, your arms, your legs, your head. See yourself here and know that you can just be. You recognize all these thoughts happening in your mind. They have become like papers thrown all around a room. But you can allow them to be picked up neatly and orderly and file them away. Clear the clutter so you can access any certain thought or idea, but only when you need them. Just listen to these suggestions and count with me. Starting with 5, a sharp and focused mind. 4, freeing yourself of needless worry. 3, presence of mind, right here and now. 2, resolution, order, and clarity. 1, a free and open mind. 2, and now seeing yourself, feeling your breath, recognizing it, returning here to this very moment. No future or past, only here and now. Again, listen and count with me. 5, sharp, focused. 4, free, no worry. 3, present, here and now. 2, order, clarity. 1, mind free and open. Just pause, breathe, and reset anytime, again and again. You will find strength and presence. You will be confident. You will be your best self. You can. It's up to you. So, press reset.